All right, we're back. Moving through now into our semifinals of our Legacy Online Open event. There was a question in chat. Where can I view the deck list from the top 8 of this event? They're currently available in the tournament site itself on mtgmelee.com. And that I've been harassed constantly by my friend Shane Downey for mispronouncing melee at every single opportunity. And I still keep getting it wrong. Whatever it's supposed to be, you know what word I'm talking about. And the Melee, right? mtgmelee.com. And they'll also be available tomorrow on the NRG Gaming website. Now, I'm here with Mike Hadley. We're moving through our elimination rounds. Going into the top 4, our matchup for you is going to be Blue-Black Ninjas versus Team Redelver or Rug Delver. And we're going to go ahead and peruse those deck lists in a minute. Here's Blue-Black Ninjas. Ornithopter in a constructed deck. It's true. It's there. And
this is the thing.
Yeah, it's there just to get picked up, basically by other ninjas, or to be converted by Retrofitter Foundry into a 4/4, so kind of multi-use. Same as the other one-drop, Changeling Outcast. And then we have some removal, some cantrips, but really kind of the powerful cards, Ingenious Infiltrator and Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow. Both are ninjas that accrue card advantage when connecting with the opponent. The Death Shadow, or the Tiger Shadow, additionally shoots for a bunch of damage depending on the casting cost of the card drawn or flipped over. And then we have some removal. And basically, this is kind of, I would call it low to the ground, even though the ninjas, I mean, they all cost 2 on the ninja side of it. And I would call this similar to a Delver deck in that it's got cheap counter magic, a little bit of removal, and then cheap creatures that have evasion.
Yeah, I think well positioned here. You got Drown on the Lock. Very versatile, kind of we're 2 sides of one coin, a counter spell and a removal spell. Mm-hmm. And like the Delver deck, you see your Ponders, your Brainstorms, Dazes, that kind of thing. And for those tuning in, Joe, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask. And so with this Ninjas deck, what makes this a bit different is the mechanic of ninjutsu. And so I'm horrible at this, but Joe, if you can you just explain to those who are watching what happens with that mechanic and why that makes this deck unique? All
right, so the way we're going to take advantage of ninjutsu, and the ninjutsu mechanic was in one limited format, and we saw play in that limited format, and it was also in Modern Horizons. But basically, any unblocked creature, you can, after the no blocks are declared, you can pay the ninjutsu cost, slide in the ninja, pick up the other creature, and the ninja is in combat. So it will connect since it was already unblocked, and then you'll get either the free card from Infiltrator or the free card plus damage from Yuriko Tiger Shadow. So really, you're taking advantage of any creature being unblocked. We'll go to the other deck real quick because the players are about to start. The Rug Delver deck, and this is kind of fairly stock, although we do have a Clothis, God of Destiny, in the main deck. To go alongside a pair of Okos, which is more common and probably actually everywhere. Free counter magic, some removal in the form of bolts, Delver, Tarmogoyf, Dreadhorde Arcanist. Real quick, Mike, do you have a favorite here? I mean, these decks are pretty similar.
I think a deck playing Oko. It's hard for me to say to not go with that one. So that's where I'm going.
That's pretty reasonable. I think that's right way to go. Also, if in a longer game, if it develops, the creatures in the Rug Delver deck are just bigger. And that may matter if both decks don't function well. So let's go ahead and get things rolling. Okay, there was an issue with the players challenging each other. We'll get back to them in just a second.
So, Joe, while we're waiting on that, I know earlier you had talked about a list you were playing. This looks somewhat, I wouldn't say similar cards. So what would be, so this is more of a Rug Delver. You looking at more of a control. In this format, what helped you lean more towards a control build versus a Delver build? Is it preference of style of play? Is it the type of cards? What helped you say, hey, if I was playing, I'd go the other route?
I mean, the really kind of what I've been doing for the last, 5 years is just playing with Venser. And then what other cards kind of go together with it. And Venser Legend Package is what I like a lot. The new card that I picked up was Uro because it's a legend and it also has a great come into play effect, which is kind of the theme of all the other creatures. So, the deck I submitted was Bant. But yeah, here we have Rug Delver, which is more aggressive. My decks are not commonly aggressive. They kind of take a while to get things rolling. Now, there are some elements of that here. There are Okos. There have Colossus, which generates advantage turn after turn. I think Colossus is really interesting in that it's not a planeswalker, but it gives you a choice of options most turns and accrues a little bit of advantage. And it's actually pretty hard to deal with.
Yeah, that makes sense. And your style, to your point, I think you bring up a really good point, something that might have got hidden in plain sight. You talked about Venser, and if I'm not putting words in your mouth, but just comfort and style of play and building around something. I think there's a lot to be said about that. So yeah, well, let's. I think we're jumping into our match, and let's see what happens.
Okay, so looks like we missed the mulligan decisions, and we're into the beginning of the game, and we see Changeling Outcast, which is good enough that it's going to draw a force.
Yeah,
a 1/1 1-mana common draws a Force of Will and Legacy. So yeah, sometimes cards are just worth a lot more than they might initially seem.
Yeah, I think you and Tannen were talking about that a little bit at the beginning, where if you're a Delver player, you got to know where to pick your fights over. Something that just seems innocuous might be the deciding factor, the sequence of the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have a turn 1 Ponder here showing a second Tarmogoyf, a Daze, and a land. We are keeping. Probably okay having the pressure, and then having a Daze, having some way to interact is probably good. So this is probably. I mean, I'm sure we wouldn't mind having a Bolt, but sorry, the connection here looks like, because we're getting this feed from the players, looks a little blurry here. There we go. That's much sharper.
It's interesting. Do we Daze the Strix here? And the answer is yes.
Whoa! What just happened?
So I think happened.
Are we? Whoa. Okay, so we're watching somebody's tweet, but what?
It went backwards.
It went backwards. Yeah. So I'm not sure what happened there, but
I think we're moving back to normal.
Yeah, so maybe whoa. Okay, so we may have to deal with a few difficulties watching this match. Hopefully you'll bear with us and the players and get through this game, as we somehow jumped backwards there in time momentarily, which is fitting. I was actually rewatching a part of Avengers Endgame last night, and that actually happens there. They mess around with time. Okay, and then we're back to us. So we'll see if we can get that straightened out.
I like the Avengers reference right there.
Yeah. So while the players and our production are working on that, Mike, what kind, now you're primarily, maybe even exclusively, a paper Magic player, is that right?
Oh my goodness, I am.
Okay.
We'll talk more about that between breaks, but I'll tell some funny jokes. It looks like we flipped it over, and so the Strix did resolve. Okay. Yeah.
So the Strix did resolve, and so it looked. Oh, okay. So there was a Daze on both sides. It was attempted to be dazed, and then got dazed back. So yeah, we've switched perspective to a cleaner connection, it looks like, and we're now on the Ninja side, and we see a Ponder that is decent but doesn't have a Ninja. Can we keep a hand like this? Can we keep cards like this? Looks like yes, we can.
They keep, and the argument there might be we've got a Brainstorm, we got a Polluted Delta,
right?
We got some protection. We've already countered something. We've dazed, so maybe it's just setting up for what might come back on the other the Delver side of the table, perhaps. But you also got Drown on the Lock, protect against a Goyf or something like that. So
yeah, we've got time. Certainly, we have defenses to generate time.
Yeah. And the Fatal Push too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like both of those players' feeds were disasters. Not to say that it's their fault. I mean, there's lots of things going on here. But we're going to switch to the backup match, which because apparently there were some issues there. So, yeah, apologies if you were into seeing the results of that match. And instead, we're going to see that's what I was like, why are you dancing over there? But it's because we're going to the Goblin stack.
This is why.
So... So we're moving into our other semifinal match, which is the Goblins versus Lands, and we see Tabernacle in play. Field of the Dead being well short of generating any tokens. And
I do see a Dark Depths in the stage, and if that's an exploration, looks like we can go Depths in the stage, and then we just walk in right as our opponent is able to make a 20/20. Looks like the.
Yeah, it looks like we did. And with the Lens player sitting at 10, there's a tabernacle in play. I don't know that. I don't know that. I guess a sharpshooter. I mean, I'm sorry. What's the bounce goblin called?
The Sting Scourger, which he's not playing any copies of. I didn't see any copies. So here his outs. Sling Gang here would be incredible. So he's got 2 cards in hand with the tabernacle trigger on the stack. If you're able to cheat in a Sling Gang and just sack your dudes without having to pay for them or something like that, or just have it when your opponent goes to swing for 20. I mean, that's really the difference here. If he's got Sling Gang, he's in a good spot. If not, next game it is.
Yeah, and that's amazing to me that you think it, because I look at this and like, oh, this goblin player's dead. It's the end of it. But you're right. If there's a Sling Gang, then there's
still magic to be played. And if there's a Sling Gang, the Lance player may not even be in a place to attack with the 20/20.
Sure.
Because you die on the crackback.
Right.
We'll see what happens with 2 cards in hand. It also says something to me that the Gem Palms, this person's played lands before, because that's typically a card you use to cycle, but they realize turn it into an attacking creature to get the life total to something decently low.
Okay, so let's see how this. Well, there's not going to be a Sling Gang. It doesn't look like otherwise because it would have come in already. Okay. Oh, I see. The Incinerator makes mana through the Prospector to pay for the other creature. So that's
So that's where Prospector's really good here. Sack the Incinerator's probably already put in overtime. If it attacked for 2 or 3 points of damage plus saved a creature, that's in this matchup more than you could ask for. So let's see here. Ringleader.
Okay.
Not sure.
Yeah, not the best.
What did we get? Yeah, I think we got 1 goblin.
We got a War Chief. That's it.
War Chief. Ugh. That is. Well, let's see what happens. Activate Vial.
Whoa. Okay.
Well, now here's the thing. If the Goblins player has another pile driver in hand, they can sack the Prospector, put in a pile driver, and that would actually win the game because the 2 pile drivers. Yeah. But it's just the one.
But yeah, just the one. We're not going to see that then. And so we have a block on the pile driver, and then looks like no defense against the 20 coming back the other way.
Yeah.
So this looks like it's probably going to end. Player in the chat asking about, that's actually Honorog, talking about Caracas. And your Caracas was in the sideboard, right? I don't remember where this was.
Mine was in the side. I think he's playing one in the main. And that's it's starting to be, so you'll start to see a lot of Goblins lists that are playing 61 cards, and that extra card now is for the Caracas slot for stuff like this. So I don't think there's a wrong answer. For me, it was Sting Scourger, just because of I think having extra land's never bad. Having extra goblins never bad. I think this is kind of back to a preference thing. So,
Okay, so this Married Legions will swing over for a lethal full 20 and end this game. So Goblins goes down in what is probably game 1. Can we find out about that? Okay, so that was game 1. So now we're looking at sideboarding from a Goblin side against red-green lands. We talked briefly earlier about the sideboarding here. I'm sure you're going to want Graveyard Hate.
Yeah, I think here I definitely want the Relic. I think Needle's good. Personally, I bring in a couple Surgicals because I'm picturing Life from the Loam, Punishing Fire. It always feels good, too, if you can Wasteland a Thespian Stage or a Dark Depths and just extract a layer of how this deck's trying to win. So those cards seem to come in. And I think some of the stuff that can come out, Incinerator, Chain Whirler, those don't seem like they're doing that much. And maybe even I consider shaving couple Incinerators, a Chain Whirler, and maybe a Ringleader because I'm shaving lots of 4 goblins and I'm putting it for non-goblin cards.
I see. Okay, because it makes it so it's not going to hit as hard. Yeah. Now Ringleader's a card where years ago we'd see play sets of them all the time, right? And that's just too many other cards being printed now. You can't fit them all in anymore. That's pretty much
it's not.
Right?
It's because of Muxus, really. So if you think about the ability to be able to put the cards right into play. Muxus is just a sheer upgrade. So not the Ringleader's bad. It's just Muxus is that much better. Okay. We just put them right into play. So Well, let's see what happens now on the land side. So, Joe, if you're lands, what are you thinking of bringing in from the board?
Well, let's see. What do we have here? We have some combo hate, predictably. Boy, I got to tell you, I'm not enthusiastic about my sideboard against lands, but I'm sorry, against goblins. Are we actually at the point where we're bringing in Frenzy because we don't have anything else? Like, we don't want Sphere of Resistance, I don't think. I'm not bringing Force of Vigor in for Aether Vial. I guess
Choke is not
Crucible.
coming in.
Yeah, I can bring a Crucible to help fight against Wastelands. So that's something. I'm not bringing in Searchable. I'm not bringing Chandra Awakened Inferno. I believe the minus ability is 3 damage to non-elementals, so that could potentially sweep the board, but for 6 mana, that doesn't seem particularly realistic. So I might swap maybe like Clothis for Crucible, and that's it?
That might be it. Yeah, and the interesting thing here is I've played this matchup a fair amount, and quite frankly, it's tough. Like, you just tightrope rock, and it feels like that last game, it was like, oh, shoot, if he didn't have exploration, but it's always some scenario like that from the Goblin side. It's always, if they didn't have that one thing, that one turn, which to me says it's just not a favorable matchup if it's always that kind of a scenario. So I don't think there's that much of a disadvantage. Goblins just probably gets a few more percentage points in a pretty tough matchup as it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's see how it plays out. And boy, that if it's always one little thing that causes you to lose to fight a bad matchup, that's probably going to be applied to quite a bit of the practice I've been doing for the Pro Tour lately. Is maybe I have a hard time giving up on decks that clearly are failures, and that's something I should probably take into account more often. So we see here an opening hand that looks fine, but does not have any green or actually colored mana. Can we keep a hand with no colored mana? Looks like we're thinking about it.
So here's a question: do you keep it because you got low, and do you just? Well, that's a lot. That's a lot of not doing anything. But I was thinking you could just loam, but you still need to get the green. I think you need. But then there's an argument here because you've also got the Tabernacle.
Yeah,
I think you need colored sources of mana, right?
I think. We can Thespian Stage and copy one of the Goblins players' mountains, I guess, to try on Punishing Fire once
on turn 3. Yeah. So.
I know. I'm not saying it's good. But we have stage depths and we have Tabernacle. That's, maybe that's enough. That it actually might be.
Maybe that's what the Lance player is looking at, is to say, hey, you can't beat a 2020,
right?
And I can make a 2020 faster than you can stop it, especially with the Tabernacle as insurance.
Yeah.
Let's hope. Yeah. So I think we're hoping that if we kept, it's hoping that this Tabernacle stays around a couple turns to be able to power out a 2020.
Yeah. We're basically telling the opponent you have to have 2 Wastelands because you need to take out the Tabernacle and the Dark Depths, and maybe you can't do that.
Yes, it's tricky. So this is where Pithing Needle might come in handy if they had it. Turn 1 Vial is good. That helps to get around Aether Vial, and even doesn't make Tabernacle as good, at least for the early turn. But overall, still just an amazing card.
Okay, Ghost Quarter ourselves, we can turn on colored mana, I guess.
Okay.
That's not exciting. I'm not sure even how we're going to build here. Are we going to wait? I doubt we're wastelanding a person that has Aether Vial. So probably we got to lead on one of these lands. Okay, it's Wasteland. Maybe you even play Field of the Dead first, just because it's, because we don't care about it.
Yeah, it's curious to see. So they've got pieces, to your point, even the Ghost Quarter on your own land is a thing. But so this is one of those where if you've got enough experience with the deck against matchups like this, you keep them for a reason. Because if you look at it, they've got the tools. It's just a matter of being able to deploy them over the next 3, 4, 5 turns. And so they must feel like with the Tabernacle and otherwise that they can. We're about to find out.
Yeah, certainly Goblins not a big start here. Goblins did mulligan. Yeah. So, and there's a Taiga, and that's really big.
Oof, that was what was needed.
Yeah. So this land's hand has really all the tools. We have Loam, Punishing Fire, the combo, and Tabernacle. So this is everything.
This is everything you could ask for. If this was a Lance Christmas list against Goblins, this is what it would look like.
Yeah, so let's see, what can Goblins do to muster here? Violin Alaki isn't likely to even be there because I would think we would have seen the Lackey in turn 1. Not necessarily. Okay, we do have it.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Like, okay, was that Lackey drawn off the top, or do you think
It
we
had
played turn 1?
it had to have been off the top because if you're on the play to not go Cavern Lackey, just seeing in this kind of matchup because you just want to win this game as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So that came off the top there. But so we have Vial going up to 2, and this seems so bad for Goblins. Like the Punishing Fire. Okay, there's no Grove in play, so maybe not worry about that. But we still have to be conscious of it. But just
not being able to not doing anything. This does not favor Goblins. Just plan a 1/1, make him unless it's just one of those explosive. So there's the surgical that we talked about coming out of sideboard. I like surgical. I don't know if I care enough to surgical Punishing Fire, but that might say something about the context of the hand. I more personally want to get rid of the cards that are going to kill me. I don't think Punishing Fire is killing me, especially without a Grove. I kind of like waiting for something like Stage or Dark Depths getting in the yard, which they typically will because they play Life Alone, or even waiting for a loan. But
how depressed are we as the Goblins player when this surgical reveals the hand that we're facing?
Yeah, I think the first thing he might be thinking is, gosh, I should have waited. But unfairly, we got to see what the content of the hand is. I'm not sure. But maybe they were worried about Grove and they've got a bunch of 1/1s and 2/2s. And maybe that's what it was, is to be able to start to get in early. You got a couple pile drivers that you feel like you can win through this.
Yeah.
As long as they can't get the Punishing Fire.
We don't have a couple anything. We have one card in hand. So,
ugh.
Yeah. That card better be something that finds other Goblins.
Yeah, I'd be curious why so early and maybe the other thing too, I've been there before when you feel like it's already an unwinnable matchup, when you have less than perfect draws, you just take the wins you can get. And hitting it something is better than hitting nothing because it's still a decent card. So maybe it was just more like I just want to feel like I'm being productive in this situation that feels so unwinnable anyway.
Now I'm surprised by this because playing the Ghost Quarter and the Crucible does not, get us any closer to, like, we have 3 lands I really want to have in play right now: Stage, Depths, and Tabernacle, and we didn't play any of them.
Could it be a situation where I've seen surgical and I don't want to run a surgical or wasteland or something, expose myself unnecessarily, because if I put one of these in, Tabernacle I could have seen an argument for, but maybe protecting the Stage and the Depths just until it's time to go off.
Maybe, but even then, we don't have exploration. We can only play one of them at a time. I really question. Like, we could have done the same thing, but played the Thespian Stage instead of the Ghost Quarter.
Yeah,
I understand
true.
what you're saying about it being vulnerable, but again, the resources we're playing against here, that's vulnerable to Wasteland plus Surgical. Our opponent only has one card, so they can't have both of them.
That might have been a bit too conservative, and maybe just because they have all the resources, they feel like it really doesn't matter what I do here. I could just win, but I'm with you to say it probably was a better line to just start setting up shop to just win this game.
Now we didn't get beat up too hard. And Aurora Marshal comes down, does 2 additional damage. Okay, that's not a huge deal. If that had been a scary card, like if that had been a Ringleader, we could have potentially actually find ourselves in a little bit of difficulty. But here and now, still, if it was, I don't know, what can we get, like Matron into Pile Driver would be a lot of damage here.
So if you go at this point, based on how the texture of the game stacks up, a Matron here would be amazing because you can just go Matron for a Matron and get a Pile Driver and be enough damage to win the game.
Right. And the Lance player has no defense built up here.
Yeah.
We also could have wastelanded a Cavern here just to slow down the mana, because I don't think we need the wasteland on the land side at all.
Yeah, I'm curious about the line of play from the Lance player, because you got Crucible out. You could have even done double wasteland instead of playing the stage. Yeah, this is from. I don't want to question the Lance player because I'm sure they know what they're doing.
Right.
But from where I'm sitting, it feels like there could have been a couple different lines that they have taken to in this game and not give the Goblins player a couple extra turns.
Right. Okay. So Matron for, let's see, whoa. So it looks like our Lance player there was considering just conceding on the spot, or maybe just, that could just be a personal habit. But so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage on the board. A pile driver would be 6 plus 8, it'd be 14.
If they matron for a matron, and that matron goes against pile driver, game's over.
Well,
because that'll be 2, 4, 6. Yeah, because Chieftain makes it 1 less. Or sorry,
the vial went to 4.
Up to,
the vial went
they
to
must
4.
have drew.
Can't do that. We did get a. Oh, we have a land in hand. Okay. So this is sequencing differently than. Well, they're empty-handed, so they're getting whatever they're tutoring for here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is Trashmaster enough?
Sling Gang would be enough.
Okay.
So you Sling Gang, swing out. That'd be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then, you go get Sling Gang, and you So
okay. So I'm gonna say now this may be unfair, and there's going to be subtleties in the matchup that I'm not aware of. I'm going to say there that the Lance player played too conservative and got themselves killed.
So I would
didn't necessarily have to.
So the thing about Goblins is I call it slowly, or gradually, suddenly. And what that means is you're gradually doing something, slowly doing it, and then all of a sudden the game's over, like there. And I'm sure the Lance player is probably like, I've got time. They're playing a 2-2 and a 1-1. It's just little incremental damage. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait, I thought I had 2 more turns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they had to, the sequencing the lands, they're starting on turn 3 with the, whatever land it was, the Ghost Quarter, I think, delayed into the Crucible. It's just like maybe they're going to lose anyway, but I feel like they could have done better. And the Crucible didn't seem like it contributed to anything.
No,
there wasn't even a big card.
I even after you play the Crucible with Wasteland up, you still got Loam in hand, so you're not worried about getting your lands back. Even if I was like, okay, maybe just want to do double Wasteland and keep them off of being able to but then I was like, it's 2 cards in hand.
Yeah.
But nothing. You weren't interacting. And I know I played Goblins enough to know you just need a turn or 2. You need to draw a matron or a ringleader, and you can just, again, gradually, suddenly win the game. And that's what just happened.
Okay. So, all right. So we have game 3 coming, right? Because I believe when we jumped in, it was game 1. There's still Cyber for game 3. Okay.
Yeah, so I would imagine here that the Lance player probably doesn't play as conservatively this game versus last game. I think even as a Lance player, exploration is going to be MVP to be able to get the lands out of hand as fast as possible.
Okay, so here we are with, that is not going to be a keep. Interestingly, though, we do see the Force of Vigor came in, which so that can hit. We saw what Relic,
an Aether Vial, Relic, and Vial, Needle. Got some good targets.
Yeah, but it's not I mean, it's some targets. Yeah, I wonder how many of them came in. It doesn't seem like it's great. Okay, here we have a pretty reasonable hand. Certainly on 6, this is probably a keep.
So what do you put back here when you look at this hand? If you keep this, looks like a keepable 6.
Right.
What card in here do you think is worth putting back?
My instinct would be, say, Crucible or Life Prolong. I don't need both of them.
Yeah, I'm with you on Crucible. Crucible, I just don't know what Crucible really does in this matchup. And I'm with you. You can putting Crucible back. You can cast every other card in your hand with the 2 lands you have as well. So there's something to be said there. Just to say, even if I know you won't get stuck on 2 lands, but you can do everything in your hand with those lands. Crucible just doesn't seem productive in this matchup.
Yeah, and we have the redundancy of Loam vulnerable to graveyard hate, Crucible vulnerable to artifact hate, and they kind of double for each other. And we put the Loam back. So
interesting. Well, you said that as your second choice.
Yeah, well, I said that's my second choice because I felt like they do the same thing, and the Loam is stronger. But it also, I mean, maybe we're just worried about. I don't know.
I don't know. There's something the Lance player's thinking.
Right.
So interesting here. You got to have this is a good start. So you got to have the Punishing Fire, which the Lance player does.
Oh.
Tabernacle was a huge draw.
Yeah. So I imagine. Feel like I would still fire off the Punishing Fire here.
Have to. If you're watching stream earlier, you get a Muxus out on turn 2, and things go real bad real quick.
Mm-hmm. Even with Tabernacle. I mean, plus Tabernacle could get Wastelanded or something.
Yeah.
And oh boy, this is going to come, like, you could crop rotate the Tabernacle in response to the Wasteland and get into the land. If we had the Loam, then you could replay the Tabernacle next turn. But with Crucible, it takes an extra turn.
Mm-hmm.
There's, this is, like, I'm sure there are legitimate reasons to keep the Crucible instead of the Loam. It would have not been my preference. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are we getting? Oh, you think we're getting a Grove? No, we're not getting it.
Wasteland.
Well,
okay.
All right. That's cool. That's elegant.
Well, here's the issue now. We've got no more colored sources of mana.
Right. And you have 1 mana in total. So this Crucible is not coming down for a while. This is cool, but we managed to kill the Lackey without using the Punishing Fire, but we can't cast the Punishing Fire now, so I'm not sure that we netted ourselves anything.
Yeah, we cut ourselves out of being able to cast the cards, and we talked about that at the Open to say, with those 2 lands, you can cast everything in hand. Now you can't. And I question here if the lands play. So, I'm sure we've all been there before. You get kind of myopic in what you're doing. You maybe lose sight of your objective, which is to win the game, because you're focused on what's right in front of you. So this person might have thought, okay, I got to get this Lackey off the board, because when the reality is, how do I win the game?
Right.
And I just, so right now we're at a place, I don't think you can Ghost Quarter Tabernacle to get colored land, but now you're at a place again where you aren't casting spells and you aren't developing your board, where you could have had a library out and a Punishing Fire in your graveyard. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, at least a land was drawn. Like, any land that makes mana is good.
Yes.
We get closer to that Crucible. But I feel like even the Lance player may still be in a decent position here, but they made it feels like they made it harder on themselves than they had to.
So that even goes back to what I was saying about this matchup. So in this situation, I would have been like, what's happening? If I'm a Goblins player seeing this, like, yes, this is the ideal way I would have wanted this to play out. But still, somehow, even though they did all this and kind of tie one hand behind their back, still feels like they are okay if they just draw a land or 2.
Yeah.
Which goes back to just the favoritism in this matchup.
Right, sure. So we see, Cloth has stayed in the deck, and that's not going to do much right now. It's not going to make it onto the board. So we have some options. All of them involve Ghost Quartering ourselves, which is not great. We're a mana away from being able to Thespian Stage and copy at Badlands, so at least that would turn on Punishing Fire. But in that case, we'd have mana for Crucible anyway. Yeah.
So do you Crucible yourself here?
So now
we're going back.
We're looking at our deck list and saying, what? How did we get ourselves into this? Didn't we have before?
How did we get here?
Yeah,
and I feel like you have to. If the whole premise behind Tabernacle was to control the board, and maybe it was just to control the early turns.
Yeah.
So maybe there's an argument now to say I don't need Tabernacle anymore because I control the early turns. I'm struggling with that.
Yeah.
Or maybe just play enough lands that you say I'm okay just kind of sitting here staring at each other until I draw more land. I'll draw out of this before you can.
The pace of play is slowed down so much that I really feel like this is kind of and because I've done this, and everyone has done this. You saw a cool play, and you're like, "This is a really neat way to kill this Goblin Lackey for free." and you didn't think through the ramifications of that. And now that's what we're faced with right now, where, yeah, we picked off the Goblin Lackey for free, but we got ourselves stuck.
But now what?
And
yeah.
we're providing now the Goblins players mounting no pressure, but they do have 7 cards in hand, so they're going to be capable of doing some stuff, and it's just a matter of when are they going to be able to deal with this Tabernacle, or can they eventually beat me without even needing to deal with the Tabernacle?
Yeah, the other thing, too, if you go back to game 2, there could be a bit of PTSD from that, seeing how Goblins just won out of nowhere and having too many resources. So the Lance player could have potentially just mentally overcorrected to say, I'm going to make sure you have no resources so I just don't lose out of nowhere anymore.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And so that resulted in this position where War Chief comes down. Loan's drawn.
That was a huge turn because if you notice the Caracas was played, which says that was the 3rd land. There wasn't a 4th land. And so we exposed the way we're going to kill the Merit Lage. But also because the Depths player did not draw a green source or a red source, when this Goblin player untaps with 5 cards in hand, that's going to be huge. So I think here you got to, unfortunately, Ghost Quarter your land to go get just to use Punishing Fire. I hate seeing it, but you have to unlock your hand now.
Right. So, but if you, what do you even get here? I mean, I don't think you can turn on the Punishing Fire because I think you have to get green.
Yeah. So this is tricky here too, right? Do you get red to get the War Chief off? Because if you think, crap, if I let this War Chief live, it makes everything cost 1 less. So kind of Tabernacle's kind of negated for turn, and get threats out and just go wide. Or do you get down the Sylvan Library or even Loam to start getting your lands back? It's green or red, is for sure. And now we're back to 1 land again.
So we're gonna Loam. Yeah,
it's gotta be Loam.
Yeah, it has to be. So the chat is suggesting that we should have Ghost Quartered the Tabernacle because we can replay it later anyway. Yeah, and that would give us more mana. That's all. That's reasonable.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and this turn doesn't amount. Are we wastelanding? We are. Okay. This still might get there. This might win the game, but it's certainly drawing it out.
Yeah. So here, the other thing that's interesting is the red source does come in tapped. So so unless we draw a red source or mill off of the loam, still without red. So here, if the Goblins player has a 1 or a 2 drop, because I'm without a land, this could be a really big turn, land in a pile driver or war marshal or something of that nature.
Yeah. It needs to be something, though. Like the Lance player is eventually going to get their operations running, even though it's taking a while to develop. Goblins does need to get going here. It still might be tricky. There's still a Tabernacle. There's still, there isn't Punishing Fire yet. This may end up working.
So here's a plot twist for you. Goblins player surgicals the loam here.
Oh.
That could be really good.
Yeah. It could be. Lots of things. Yeah, a wasteland would be great here from Goblins to pick off the Tabernacle. There it is. There's a wasteland.
There it is.
We're not going to play it. We're going to play Pashalik Mon. Okay.
Okay. The idea here is if you kill one of my goblins from here on out, that is an interesting line because now you put the you stretch the Punishing Fire a bit, because if you kill War Chief, you take a damage, and every time you kill a goblin, you ping, or you kill Mons, and you leave the War Chief out to be able to cheat threats in. So I like that line here of not wastelanding and putting extra pressure on the Lance player on the resources.
All right, we drew a Windswept Heath, so we'll be able to get a Taiga here.
That was good. That was critical.
Yeah. So now we can really stymie the offense even more so because of the tax from Tabernacle, whichever one is paid for, we can kill. So we're not be looking to take much damage this turn. Yeah, getting Pashalik Mon. Boy, I question. I can't help questioning a lot of the stuff that's going on in this match so far. Getting the damage out there is great. I feel like wastelanding the Tabernacle. Well, I guess that's worse since you know it can be loaned back.
Mm-hmm. Now that you know it can be loaned back, that's the tough part.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing here is you got the Caracas and the Pashelik Mons. So the Lance player may want to be aware of that. Not that they're in too much trouble, but if you go to try to punishing fire it, it's an interaction that might not come up that often to be able to just bounce the Mons back into hand.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. We're going to pass the turn and put the onus on the Goblins player to choose which creatures to keep in play. I would imagine that we're going to keep them both and then leave the Wasteland untapped.
Yeah, so that's what you got to ask yourself here is to say, I gotta keep both around and just keep Wasteland up so that next turn, interesting. So I liked keeping up Wasteland because you got to get from up underneath this Tabernacle.
Yeah.
So on their turn to be able to deal that, so you can actually get cards out of your hand.
Yeah. So now, still in the upkeep, we're going to cast Punishing Fire and kill the Goblin War Chief, I think.
Yeah. So that way you can't cheat out a 2-drop. Right. You take 1 damage on the way out the door from Pashelik Mons, but
okay, ping for 1, but yeah, what are we? This turn doesn't feel like it can be very threatening.
No.
The player in chat asking about how Tabernacle works. If you waste a Tabernacle with the ability on the stack, it will not be stopped for that turn. You need to take care of it beforehand, either on your turn or at the opponent's end of turn, something like that.
Yeah.
So there it is. Yeah, Tabernacle, Pendrell Veil. All creatures have, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay 1. That goes for both players. It does not affect.
There it is.
Worded that way. Oh, it is surgical?
The surgical.
Surgical.
Okay.
So this just real quick there, that Tabernacle information, that wording is actually incorrect on that card. It's destroy the creature unless you pay 1, not sacrifice, which has minor implications with Merit Lage and maybe something with regeneration. Either way, we had surgical here. We took the Life from the Loams.
That's right.
Which would be great if the Crucible wasn't around, but it is. Yeah. So we're still not
out of the woods just yet.
Yeah.
However, the good news is it isn't the greatest because you can get lands back, but at least with Loam, being able to just fill up the graveyard over consecutive turns is backbreaking.
Right.
So at least here we've said, okay, we gummed up that strategy, and that's what you got to be able to do is be able to chip in for some points of damage and stop a strategy here and there.
Mm-hmm. Drawing a redundant Sylvan Library is not the greatest.
That's not where we want to be.
But so do we hear we're going to play Klothys. That's also a way to generate mana by when you choose to exile a land, and there are some lands in the Goblin's graveyard. But so this allows us to play Crucible and then replay whatever in the same turn. But again, we're really not developing the board very much.
Now, here's also something interesting. Caracas, is that well, actually, I'm not sure. How does Caracas read legendary permanent or legendary creature? Because that makes a difference.
It's legendary creature.
Okay, so then in that case, it does make a difference because
right.
This isn't currently a creature. Okay, I was thinking, well, it might have just time walked themselves because you can just bounce it back, but they can't do that.
I thought about that a while back, and I was like, "Oh, maybe it's just legendary permanent?" And then wait, if that's true, then I should have been bouncing Planeswalkers all the time. So probably not. Or you could bounce Tabernacle. Yeah, it would be great. No, it's
that would be too broken.
Yeah, it's it definitely is legendary creatures. So, okay. This game, I feel like this game is proceeding so slowly because we're not like this Tabernacle's still on the board. We got to pay for this again with something.
Yeah.
And then if we wasteland the Tabernacle at the end of the next turn, the Crucible will be on the board by then, which is just going to come back. The
texture of this game here is interesting. For the Goblins player, the way you win this game is being able to get cards out of your hand. And the if you back into how to get cards out of your hand, one of the ways without an Aether Vial is being able to use your mana as efficiently as possible, which would mean turns ago getting rid of that Tabernacle with the Wasteland.
Yeah. Now potentially had the possibility. I mean, maybe we could have even Wastelanded it and then Surgical the Tabernacle. I mean, that feels terrible, but it would have solved the problem. And then another issue for the Goblin side is we're getting close to time. We're still on? Okay. So the 25-minute time limit in the Swiss has actually been removed for the top 8, so the players have access to their entire clock. So I was thinking that we're getting close to brushing up on the cutoff there, but Goblins actually has all the time that you see there, so not something to worry about. And we do pay the tax with Caracas. And move into the main phase here. And yeah, the pace of this game feels so slow, partially because there's defensive cards all over the place, and partially it's just the speed of the players is lagging, and that's okay. There's a lot going on. The match matters to them. It's top 4.
It's a big match. Yeah. I think that here, if I'm the Goblins player, I need lands. I just need lands and threats. The Mog War Marshal is a really good card here. And the reason behind that with Pashelic Mons, if you don't necessarily pay the Caracas or pay for the Tabernacle, you have to sacrifice the 2, but that gets in a couple extra points of damage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have Clothis going for a non-land, which will result in a drain of 2 life. So they'll go 10 to 16, which will matter over time. Clothis is a card that's surprisingly effective just as games play out turn after turn after turn, which is exactly what we're watching.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean...
Yeah, as you say that, I could see that card by itself, based on what's in the graveyard, just continuing every turn, gain and drain.
Right.
With a Tabernacle out, Goblins can't deploy multiple threats. So over time, it's recouping the life lost or the damage dealt from certain cards, and that card could single-handedly just win this game.
Yeah. So Crucible comes out. We have the ability to play a Wasteland, I believe, from the graveyard, knock out the Badlands, which is the only red source, and yeah, what exactly is Goblins going to do from this point?
Oof, that is bad.
Okay, take out the Wasteland. Okay, that's another way to go. And still crimping them out to the same degree, as it's probably spent on. What are we gonna do here? I think we're gonna pay Caracas for Pashalic Mons and untap the Badlands, I think.
Yeah, and then let the other 2 Goblins go. That's 2 triggers, put you to 8. Attack, put you to 6. If I'm the Goblins player, I know this feeling, being stuck on 2 or 3 lands for the last couple turns. I'm sure the hand is so top heavy with 3s and 4s, and not being able to deploy them is probably real frustrating.
Yeah. No, I imagine that's the case. So we see here the stacks. There's all kinds of stuff on the stack right now, as there's Echo from the War Marshal, and then 3 triggers from the Tabernacle.
Yeah, you let those go. Let the tokens go, or the War Marshal go to bring it. When it dies, it brings a token back in, so you've still got that. You protect the Mons with the Caracas. So you get them down to 6. The problem, though, is the Clythos on the back just recoups the life you lost,
right,
to some degree. So here again, Goblins has to. Another War Marshal would be Land War Marshal here would be incredible, if they have it.
Yeah,
just to be able to speed the clock up.
I mean, almost just to stay even, because we're losing ground almost. But if there is a land, okay.
That was big. That was important.
Something. A braid on the Crucible would be something.
Yeah.
Or whatever we have. I don't know if we probably don't have a braid, but anything Crater Maker. To actually do it, something, yeah. And it looks like
threat.
Wow.
No.
Straight up nothing. So we'll just continue here as we are, and Grove is on.
Yeah.
It's a pretty sick draw.
This one feels like it's. I hate to say it, but we still got the Punishing Fire in the yard plus the Grove. I think it's I think it's about this game's. It was never in, I think, Goblin's favor. We were holding on by a thread. But as we talked about earlier, even with lands, with not being able to cast spells, maybe sequencing differently, tying one arm behind the back, still able to just play out a game to still pull out a victory. I think what's going to happen here.
Yeah, I think they're looking fairly comfortable now. So let's see. I don't even know if we play. Well, let's see. Do you play the Grove or do you just Wasteland again? I guess you play the Grove.
Yeah, I think the Grove is right here because once they go to protect the Goblin, you can just kill it in combat or something like that.
Yeah. And that's just going to be, I mean, lands is down to 8, but I mean, they're going to start, their life total is, I mean, they were at 6 last turn. They're on the way up. Yep. Okay. Grove is the choice. Pick up Punishing Fire. Sit
and
there.
You might even just send it upstairs, right? Because you're doing a lightning bolt a turn. Because you deal 2, you give them a life back from rebuying it, but a bolt a turn might just be good enough because you're gaining 2 life each time as well. I don't know.
Yeah, well, what we're going to see is Pashalik Mons get shot down right now on main phase, and then that'll be passing the turn. We expended our mana, but we've done a lot of work, and now the clock from Goblins is collapsing, whereas the lands clock is very slow, but it's still there.
It's a clock. It's still moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think the texture of this game goes back to turn 1 or turn 2 when Tabernacle's just been sitting here the entire time, and without an Aether Vial out, you got to figure out a way to be able to use all your mana efficiently. It was somewhat of a winter orb. For 4 or 5 or 6 turns, being able to, if you think about it, Goblins for so many turns was using one land, maybe using 2. As one turn they got to play a 3 drop, and that's really it.
Okay, turn passes over. Goblin has upkeep of 1. We'll see if it gets chosen to pay. It does not. So it hits the Netherworld. I guess doesn't really technically go to the graveyard. Or doesn't end up in the graveyard. I guess it goes there. And then we untap with 3 mana, which is actually the most mana that the Goblins might have had available at any point this entire game.
Yeah.
So do we have anything impressive to do?
I wonder here if the idea which makes a lot of sense is perhaps get access to all my land, maybe draw a land and see if I can deploy multiple threats, maybe a Ringleader, maybe a Sling Gang, maybe a War Chief plus Pile Drive or something like that. Mm-hmm. But just being able to, you sitting there with 5 cards in hand, playing 1 card a turn when you've got Punishing Fire plus drain and gain every turn. It's just that's not a route to victory.
No, it isn't. This is a route to continued suffering.
Mm-hmm.
We need something. We need something to happen.
I think for the Goblins player. Here, you just want, and I've watched a couple streams do this. It's a long shot, but it could happen. Land, Muxus, like that to be able to get around. I mean, it's not a strategy; it's a hope for sure.
Right.
But it is, I think, it's what you're holding on to.
Right.
Just to be able to try to get that down.
Yeah, that could end the game in 1 shot if we hit a War Chief, but it'll never happen because of the Wasteland.
Mm-hmm.
The Lance player taking time to just, because this turn honestly is just interminable. The Lance player rearranging things, making them look nice and pretty as we continue to wait to see what's going to happen here.
I'm wondering if the Goblins player is debating between, hey, do I matron to go get like a prospector, pile driver? Oh, so it's surgical. Okay. That's a start.
Yeah.
I think here you got to take the Punishing Fire, or just because that card just doesn't let you let stuff stay on the board. So that's a good start. Still not out of the weeds.
No, definitely not. But that's just the beginning of getting out of this. Okay, now we have a creature. We have a matron. All right.
Yep. Okay. So now I think we matron for Pile driver, perhaps.
I thought of that too because we can pay for the matron and then also cast it.
Yep.
Yeah. It is a lackey. Okay.
Okay, I can get down with Lackey.
Sure.
Actually, I actually really do like Lackey because you've cut off the punishing fires in ways that you would have been able to stop it.
Well, that was a nice idea, but now Elvish Reclaimer is drawn, and that's not going to allow the lackey to attack through.
Yeah.
Meantime, life totals are actually approaching even. Land from the graveyard, Wasteland picks off Badlands. Elvish Reclaimer will come down as a 3/4, and we can deploy Sylvan Library. This is a pretty good turn.
That was a turn.
Yeah, Goblins. What do you have? It needs to be really good. You're going to pay this Echo cost or not. You have Goblin Lackey, which isn't going to help anymore. Reclaimer was a very nice draw. Okay, we're going to pay. So Matron stays on the board. Have another land. Okay. At least things are progressing now.
Yeah. Lands are good. You just want to keep hitting lands, especially fetch lands. That's good because you can get mountains.
Right. Okay, there's the lackey.
So
lackey out there.
Here's a plot twist. Our Goblins player brought in one of those pyrokinesis, thinking he might run an Elvish Reclaimer. That's the next level right there.
That would be something else. I'm gonna call that one unlikely, but then I'm not a Goblins expert.
I'm with you. I wouldn't proclaim to be an expert, but I don't think that's what Goblins would do.
Okay, so we have Sylvan Library seeing some crop rotations. How far are we from Colossus animating? We need 7. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 devotion. Another Sylvan Library puts to 5. So then we need 2 more, which 2 explorations maybe? That would get it done.
Yeah. Well, we still got Glacial Chasm in hand, which in some ways is good, some ways not, because with crop rotation, being able to go get that in a chance you need it would work, but having it in hand, I don't know if they play more than one copy, but you rather have it in the hand versus have it in the deck.
Okay, recycle into a second Grove. I guess we can't attack with the Reclaimer with the Lackey on the other side. Otherwise, we could if we win the race because of the Colossus. But as it is, it looks like we're just going to pass with crop rotation up. We do have Stage in play, so we can assemble Dark Depths combo.
Yeah.
In another turn cycle.
I think that's what's coming up, right? Because you've got the Stage, you've got a crop rotation,
right? And we have the Wasteland in the graveyard for the Caracas.
Yeah.
Okay, so paying for the creatures here. We're playing for Matron, paying for Lackey. Okay.
So that's interesting that they're paying for both. It must speak to us in hand.
Another land. Okay, so we're passing the turn. I guess, yeah, we don't even need the crop rotation for depths because we have the Reclaimer to do the same thing if we want. Ghost Quarter, all right.
Okay.
So if we eventually thin all the mountains out of the Goblins deck, then they wouldn't be able to pay for Tabernacle anymore. That's another way I guess we could go. Or that's also another way to shoot down the Caracas. Now, Lands has to face its own tax as it has to pay for the Reclaimer now. All lands under the Sylvan Library. So nothing helpful there.
I think this one, if I'm the Lands player, you can, I don't know about the Ghost Quarter, simply because I can play Wasteland out of the yard. I can go get Mirrored Liege, blow up the Caracas, make my 20/20, and say go. And if you got it, well, in 2 turns, I'm playing the lands again, and we're doing it all over again. I got insurance over the course of 2 turns. I'm pulling stuff out of your graveyard. I'm putting you to 3 and I'm going up a couple life. So and sit. I guess as I say that, there's really no wrong way to win. But if game 2 taught us anything, don't give Goblins too many opportunities to make a comeback.
Yeah, all of you watching here, thanks for sticking with us through this match. We're going to be, after this is our semifinal match. After this, we'll be briefly getting things constituted and then moving on to the finals of our Legacy Online Open here at Nerd Rage Gaming. So thanks for joining us. We are moving through the Goblin player's turn. Let's see. Are we paying? I looked away for a second. We're paying. Oh, here we are. The Tabernacle triggers. Knew they were coming at some point. And Crocus is gone. We need still to pay 2 Echo, and it's getting harder to see an out for Goblins. So they're down to 6. 3 Colossus triggers is enough by itself. Actually, if the Elvish Reclaimer gets an attack in, that would eliminate the fetch land from use on the next turn.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
This one's over. I think, this one was over turns ago. Yeah. But now more and more, there's less and less daylight.
Okay, Matron comes in. We do have 4 land in play. The Goblins player has hit its land drops, so we've actually accumulated the ability to cast things, which I didn't feel like we had for a long time. Let's see, what are we tutoring up here? It's going to be another Goblin Lackey. So, okay, well, with 2 lackeys out, we would be able to attack around the Reclaimer that's in play.
Yep, except we got one small problem. Our opponent is about to make a 20-20.
No, they're not. They're going to load up Ghost Quarters and try and destroy all the mountains. I'm guessing, since the Thespian stage copied the Ghost Quarter there, we had the option of using Reclaimer to tutor 4 Dark Depths, but instead we made a second Ghost Quarter. So yeah, if we strip all the land, then eventually the Tabernacle will just wipe everything out.
That is a plan.
Yeah, or the Colossus again will win the game eventually by continuing to drain, as we see here. Every time we approach our main phase, we drain for 2 life. Goblins player is down to 3, so Reclaimer is actually a lethal attacker right now. We could just send it in, force a chump block. I suppose it's too risky to let Lackey attack us back.
No, I like that line. If I'm the lands player, the way I played this, I'm living on the edge. I'm attacking with the Reclaimer. I'm gonna ghost. I'm doing the line you talked about. I'm ghost quartering. I'm keeping them off lands. I'm porting them down.
All right.
And I'm killing them with my my indestructible legendary enchantment creature.
Yeah. So when you say indestructible legendary in lands, you're talking in 100 times out of 100. You're talking about Merilage, but this time you're not. You're talking about Colossus, which is actually going to work. As you know, we've clearly reached the limit of the number of basic mountains in the land in the Goblin's deck.
Okay, how much do you want to bet that that the lands player is probably betting one of his buddies, like, check this out. I'm about to waste him out of the game, and I'm not going to make a 20-20 all game. I'm just going to deal 2 to him.
Okay, and that's it. Yeah, I mean, maybe so. Goblins player ends it. It is over. Goblins goes down in the face of Tabernacle Pendravel. Really brings so much work there. So Red-Green Lands advances to the finals on this side of the bracket.
Yeah.
In the hands of Timothy Schultz. And we don't know the outcome of the other semifinal because we had to leave the match because there was some kind of transmission error. So Andrew Waltice played against Max Komanowski, and Delver won. Max Komanowski defeated Andrew Waltice. So our finals is going to be Teamer Delver in the hands of Max Komanowski versus Timothy Schultz playing lands. So we'll take a 2-minute break, and then we'll be back to bring you the finals of our Nerd Rage Online Open Legacy